Hey Leen, it's Dr. Scott. So I have some feedback for you on your second essay, and your revision is going to be due a week from tomorrow, so that's Thursday, no, a week from today, so that's Thursday the 19th. The essay has a ways to go. You start out with a thesis statement that I think opens up a conversation about the Greyhound bus mural, but I don't see how the For Freedom mural kind of fits into that, and I might be basing this on our conversations that we've had about where this essay was going, but it seemed like the racial inequality message that was kind of in the Greyhound bus mural, but I thought that there was like this hope message that you were thinking about, like, you know, we've gotten better as a town when it comes to racial equality, and the For Freedom mural was kind of representing that. But the thesis statement is only talking about the racial inequality message here. So that, for me, the thesis statement is kind of, it's not really addressing the things that you're writing about in your essay. So the thesis statement needs a little bit of work there. The body paragraphs are also kind of doing that thing that I was trying to caution you guys away from, and that's trying to talk about the murals kind of like separately, like one paragraph about Greyhound, the other paragraph about For Freedom. But that's kind of what's going on here. So I think what this allows you, what this kind of keeps you from doing, is talking about the message that both murals are trying to get across. Instead, it's like, all right, Greyhound has got this message, and then For Freedom's got this other message, but we're not really kind of talking about how the two are related and kind of mixing it up in the body paragraphs, and that's kind of what's needed. And what I'm seeing here in this body paragraph about the Greyhound bus mural is that you're kind of summarizing what's happening in the mural, like this is what you're seeing. And in this paragraph here, you're also kind of summarizing what you're seeing. It's really descriptive, but it's not really kind of analyzing at this point. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe give you some pointers and kind of give you some direction, like where the body paragraphs can kind of go. So if you want to, like, if the thesis statement is going to be like these two murals are kind of contrasting each other to give us a unified message that Portsmouth might have had a shitty past when it came to race relations, but it's improved. And it's kind of a subtle hint that it's a subtle message that, you know, we've had an issue with race and we're just going to gently hint at it. But then we're going to really emphasize that we've come a long way. If you got that kind of thesis statement, you want to think about like how they get that across. And one is contrast. Like, you have an African-American man, and I like the detail about, you know, he's smoking a cigarette and his eyes are kind of, you know, they're looking directly. He looks weary, he looks tired, he's looking directly at the viewer. Doesn't have a lot of confidence in his body language. And then you contrast that against the African-American service member in the For Freedom mural. Like, you have two very different representations there. And that contrast can can maybe show that, all right, this town is comfortable with African-American men in positions of power or authority, or you know, being able to represent the town in these flood wall murals. So that is maybe one point of contrast, like being able to show body language, like different kinds of body language. Like, that might be an idea that you have for a body paragraph, and then you're using details from both murals in that paragraph to support what it is you have to say. That's kind of where the essay needs to go from here. Right now, it's kind of treating these murals as a bit separate, and it's not kind of mixing it up. I think you do start that here, but what I think needs to happen is, like, there needs to be a little bit of cutting in here to make room for you kind of playing up that contrast. All right. And then this three-dimensional thing that kind of confused me a little bit. Like, I wasn't, like, you're making a claim here that, like, let's see, I think Deffer should paint the boy in a three-dimensional manner to portray that he is real and calling out for help. What about him was like calling out for help? I kind of disagree with that at this point, but I'm willing to be persuaded. So if there's, like, if you can explain that deal and that detail in a way that kind of gets that across, I'll buy it. But right now, just kind of saying, like, like, yeah, I think he was going for this, and not really kind of supporting that with more description and detail from the mural. It's kind of not all that persuasive at this point. So there's work that needs to be done in the body paragraphs to kind of get the ideas to kind of come together to support a thesis statement that I think also needs a little bit of revision. And then there's the issue of organization, like how you're going from one idea to another. And it wasn't clear to me like why we were going from one to another. And so we have, this paragraph, this is another factor, and then we're going in to talk about the flood wall murals themselves, which I guess is kind of a conclusion. But for me, there didn't seem to be much of a rationale behind like how you're going from one idea to the other. And one way you can do that is like, the most effective way or the least effective way that Dafford was able to get this message about race across was through body language. But later on, there's this much more stronger message where he uses this other method to get his idea across. I think that's really kind of where the organization needs to be focused around, like some kind of pattern, like what was most effective, least effective, what was the most obvious, least obvious. It's kind of up to you to kind of figure that out, but there needs to be some kind of organization in there. I'm happy to chat with you about brainstorming and revising how the paragraphs are kind of structured and organized right now. I hope it is kind of obvious like how setting up a paragraph about one mural and then another paragraph about another mural, it kind of gets you into this like bind here where you end up summarizing more than you're analyzing. And that's really where this essay needs to go from this point. You don't need to give me 2 paragraphs where you're summarizing the murals in order to set up the analysis. Like I think you can do enough description in the paragraphs where you analyze where you really don't need this summary that you have here. So there's a fair bit of work to do. Let's talk grade for a second. You're going to get there. This is a tough assignment, I'll be honest with you. And you've got a decent start, but I just, will let you know where you're at grade-wise. Thesis statement, it's close. I think it's halfway there. Supporting details, you use details pretty effectively in a lot of places. And I think they're solid at this point, but they need to be geared more towards helping you support that thesis statement, and a lot of details are used to just kind of summarize what's going on in the murals. Organization, I'm not seeing it just yet. If there is a reason for why you have the paragraphs in the places that they are, that rationale, that reasoning needs to be a little bit more obvious. Source integration, you've integrated some sources. It might be helpful to tell us why we should trust these sources, and maybe to do a little bit more work discussing the sources after you quote them. And then other criteria, the visuals I thought were pretty effective. The MLA format seems to be working, and I think that the semicolons were used correctly. I didn't check that, but I think you're okay there. If you want to come chat with me during office hours, or if you want to take a shot at revising the thesis statement and maybe a body paragraph over the weekend, you want to send those to me, I'd be happy to take a look at them. But the revision will be due a week from today, which is Thursday, October the 19th. All right, Leen, that's it. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.